All right, I want you to imagine something. A tiny city that could fit on the head of a pin. It's got power plants, factories, even a whole transportation network. Now, what if I told you that city is inside you right now? Actually, trillions of them are. Today, we're going to take a tour of the cell, the absolute foundational building block of all life. So, to really get what this city is all about, we've got to ask a really basic question. What are all living things made of? I mean, everything from the tiniest little bacterium to a giant blue whale. What's the one thing they all have in common? Well, the answer is the cell. Okay, every good tour needs a map, right? So here's our plan. First, we'll look at the universal recipe for every single cell. Then we'll see how life kind of splits into two big categories. After that, it's off to the cell's production line. We'll check out essential services like power and cleanup, and finally, we'll meet some of the specialists in the cell world. Sound good? Let's dive in. All right, first stop on our tour, the universal cell recipe. You know, it's pretty wild when you think about it, but it turns out that no matter how different they look on the outside, every single cell on this planet is built from the exact same three core ingredients. So what is a cell anyway? Well, to put it simply, it's the smallest possible unit of life. You can't get any smaller than that and still be alive. And you? You're literally a collection of trillions of these incredible little structures, all working together. And every single one of them, no exceptions, has these three parts. First up, you've got the cell membrane. This is like the city's border, or the walls, controlling everything that comes in and goes out. Then inside, you have the cytoplasm. It's this jelly-like fluid where all the action happens. And finally, the really important one, the DNA. This is the city's master blueprint, the central library with instructions for everything the cell will ever need to do. Okay, so now that we've got the basics down, let's see how nature takes this simple recipe and builds two very different kinds of life, the simple cells and the complex ones. So life takes that basic recipe and goes in two totally different directions. On one side, you have the simple guys, prokaryotic cells. Think bacteria. You can picture them like a little studio apartment. Everything's just kind of floating around in one room, including the DNA. But then, on the other side, you have the complex eukaryotic cells. These make up plants, animals, and, well, us. These are more like giant mansions, with a special, secure room, the nucleus, to protect the DNA, and lots of other specialized rooms, which we call organelles, for all the different jobs. So for the rest of our tour, we're going to zoom in and focus on that mansion, the eukaryotic cell. Because this thing really is like a bustling microscopic city, packed with specialized parts all working in perfect harmony. And this brings us to the real heart of our tour, the cell's production line. We're actually going to follow the incredible journey a single protein takes, from the moment it's just an idea in the blueprints, all the way until it's a finished working product. So I mentioned these specialized parts before. What are they? Well, they're called organelles. And the name is perfect. It literally means little organs. And just like your body has organs for different jobs, or a city has different buildings for different functions, a cell has organelles, and each one has a super specific, super important job to do. Okay, our production line kicks off right here, in the nucleus. This is the control center, this city hall. It's the vault that holds all the DNA, those master blueprints we talked about. But it's not just for storage. Inside the nucleus is another little structure called the nucleolus, and its job is to act like a factory, building the little workers that will actually construct our proteins. And those workers are called ribosomes. So let's meet them. These are the ribosomes, the actual construction workers of our cell city. These tiny little guys are the protein builders. Their whole job is to take a copy of the blueprints from the DNA, read the instructions, and then assemble the proteins, which are basically the building blocks, the machines, and even the messengers for the entire cell. Now, once a protein is built, it's got to get to where it's needed, right? That's where the endoplasmic reticulum, or just the ER for short, comes in. The easiest way to think about the ER is as the cell's internal highway system, this whole network of tunnels and passageways for moving stuff around. And this highway system actually comes in two types. You've got the rough ER, which is rough because it's studded with all those little ribosome workers on its surface. This makes it a major hub for building and tweaking proteins. Then you've got the smooth ER. No ribosomes here, so it's smooth. It handles other important jobs, like making fats and detoxifying poisons. Okay, so after traveling along the ER highway, proteins arrive at our next stop, the Golgi apparatus. This is basically the cell's post office or shipping department. It takes in the proteins, does some final customizations, folds them into their perfect, usable shapes, and then packages them up to be sent out to wherever they need to go. So let's just quickly recap that whole assembly line. The instructions come from the DNA and the nucleus. The ribosomes do the building, the ER acts as the conveyor belt, and the Golgi does the final packaging and shipping. It's this incredible, perfectly coordinated process, and it's happening millions of times a second inside you. But, a city isn't just factories and production lines. It needs essential services to keep everything running. So for our next section, let's check out the parts of the cell that handle power, storage, and cleanup. First up, the one you've probably heard of, the mitochondrion. Yep, the famous powerhouse of the cell. And that's exactly what it is. It takes the food we eat and, through a process called cellular respiration, turns it into these little energy molecules called ATP. You can think of ATP as tiny rechargeable batteries that power literally everything the cell does. And this is so crucial that both plant and animal cells have them. Now, every busy city produces trash, right? The cell is no different. And that's where the lysosome comes into play. This is the cell's sanitation department, the garbage collector and the recycling center all in one. It's full of powerful enzymes that just break down and recycle anything that's old, damaged, or worn out. And last up for our essential services, storage. For that, the cell has vacuoles. These are basically storage warehouses, little sacks that hold on to different materials. Now, in animal cells, they're usually pretty small, but in plant cells, they have one massive central vacuole that's mostly filled with water. This is super important for plants because it helps them stay rigid and stand up straight. All right, for the final leg of our tour, let's look at some of the specialists in the cell world. We're going to see what unique features make different kinds of eukaryotic cells, well, different from each other. So what's the big difference between a plant cell and an animal cell? Well, it really comes down to three key things that plants have and animals don't. First, plants have a tough, rigid outer cell wall that gives them structure. Second, they have chloroplasts. These are amazing little solar panels that let the plant make its own food through photosynthesis. And third, like we just said, they have that giant central vacuole that keeps them firm and full of water. Okay, let's quickly run through the biggest takeaways from our whole tour. First, remember that all cells, no matter what, have three things in common: a membrane, cytoplasm, and DNA. From there, life splits into the simple prokaryotes, like bacteria, and a complex eukaryotes, like us. And when you look at eukaryotes, plants have those three special things: a cell wall, chloroplasts, and a big vacuole. But, and this is important, both plant and animal cells absolutely need mitochondria to generate energy and stay alive. And that's our tour. We've seen the whole city. So I just want to leave you with this one last thought. Your body, right now, is made of trillions of these tiny, impossibly complex cities, and they are all working together in perfect sync to make you. When you really stop and think about that incredible, mind-boggling cooperation on such a massive scale, what does that tell you about the nature of life itself?